Hey, this is Alex from the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. To see more videos like this from the Good Old Boys, hit subscribe and support this independent podcast.
Allen Lazard, who finished wide receiver 33, 60 targets, 100 receptions, 788 in yards, 6 touchdowns, 6.7 targets per game. Thoughts on Allen Lazard?
If you like what you saw last year, then what you see is what you get, in my opinion. Allen Lazard, I mean, granted, I think Lazard, if I'm not mistaken, was kind of that, heavy target for Aaron Rodgers last year. There wasn't, with Devontae Adams leaving, Lazard was kind of thrust into the role of the guy in that receiving core. He handled it well, right? 60 catches on 100 targets, not the best, but you'd like to see the touchdowns creep up a little bit more than the 6. And I think if you do see the touchdowns creep up a little bit more, this realistically what he is what he gets. But I do think that sense of familiarity, the sense that he already knows how to play in a Nathaniel Hackett offense. He already knows what Aaron Rodgers is thinking. I think early on, this is going to be the guy that, Rodgers is going to be picking out, and Garrett Wilson is going to serve as the decoy. That's how I kind of see it playing out in my head. So, I think a lot of the work early goes to Allen Lazard.
Yeah, it's not going to surprise me to see Allen Lazard that have been kind of the peak last year. I don't see him necessarily duplicating that here in New York. This is one of those that I think we probably see him come back to earth a little bit, where last year when he was kind of the number one guy, the veteran leader, the veteran receiver, the guy that did all of that, right, from a fantasy standpoint, he kind of got outperformed by a couple of rookies on that, right? During the beginning part of the season, Romeo Doubs was the hot name for fantasy. Definitely towards the back end, Christian Watson was the hot name for fantasy. And Allen Lazard was there, and he put up some productive games, but he also had a lot of disappearing acts. Like he'd go out and he'd have, wide receiver 5 on the week, and then he'd follow that up a couple of games later with like wide receiver 74.